Good morning, everybody. We're live here at the birdhouse, and today we're talking about spring migration. Some birds have been starting to roll in kind of slowly over the past few weeks or so, but we're starting to get to the point where things are really going to start to flow in some big numbers. So it's always an exciting time of the year, and then always. Of course, people want to know, when are the Orioles coming? When are the hummingbirds coming? Um, we'll get to that, as well as some other migrants that you might see right now in your yard, and some things to be on the lookout for as we go on in the next few days even. So if you have questions, absolutely throw them in the comments. Definitely let us know what kind of things you're seeing. And you can always just say hello also in the comments too. So we will talk about some spring migration. So first I'll show the migratory map. There was some movement last night around at least my area in upstate New York. Looks like tonight going into tomorrow. Not a lot of movement here where I am, but as we go on the next couple days, you'll see as the colors get lighter, as they move from the darker purple on this map to more of the light pinks and the yellows, and ultimately when they start to get white, that those are the signs of high migration. And you can see that there is some migration that is lots happening down in Texas. They're really starting to come up through Mexico into the U.S. And as we go on over the next couple of weeks, there's going to be a lot of birds coming in. So really exciting time of the year. And there's a lot of birds that are flowing through. So we'll keep an eye out on these maps from Birdcast, from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, and to see a good predictor of when the birds are going to be flowing in and what days are really good. I know yesterday over at locally where I am, over in Braddock Bay, they had a huge hawk fly over yesterday with a whole bunch of hawks. They had thousands and thousands of hawks, especially broadwing hawks. I heard they had 8,000 or so broadwing hawks fly over in a matter of hours. So really, really cool. It's definitely lots of migration happening, and we will keep you updated about what is coming in and how you can best attract them to your yard if they are a backyard bird. And speaking of which, when are the Orioles coming? Everybody is asking, everybody wants to know. And it's still a little bit early, at least where I am, to put out the feeders. However, if you are further south, like if you are down in the Carolinas or if you're in Pennsylvania, I would absolutely put your feeders out now. Where I am in Western New York, we usually don't get the Orioles until around the 27th, 28th of April. We'll start to hear some reports. It's really that first week of May that they really, really start to flow in. So we're recommending to put your feeders out that week of the 28th, last week of April. Absolutely get those feeders out, because the Orioles definitely are on their way. And if you're putting out your feeders, the thing that they really, really love, so they'll eat multiple foods. You can make sure to buy some oranges from the store. You can cut them in half and spike them on your Oriole feeder. They also really, really, really love jelly. So if you're only going to put out one thing for the Orioles, I will put out the jelly. We have a ton of Birdberry jelly here in stock, as well as some other brands of jelly, all perfectly safe and awesome and made specifically for the birds. There's no artificial flavorings. There's no corn syrup, nothing like that in it. We also have nectar. Orioles will drink nectar like a hummingbird will. We have ready-to-use nectar that you can just pour into your feeder. It's super easy. We also have concentrates. We have powder concentrates. We have liquid concentrates. So we have all the Oriole nectar you could want as well. So that's when the Orioles are due to arrive, and it's about the same for the hummingbirds. So usually it's in the month of May that hummingbirds really start to roll in. So sometimes we hear reports of Orioles late April, but hummingbirds really tend to be month of May. So if you're going outside and putting out your Oriole feeder, couldn't hurt to put your hummingbird feeder out as well. Probably want to have that out by May 1st. I would say, at least here where I am in Western New York. Again, if you're further down south, I would put it out now. If you're in the Carolinas or south of that, I would put your hummingbird feeder out right now. And just like we have all the food for the Orioles, we have ready to use nectar, we have nectar concentrates, we have all that good stuff for the hummingbirds. You can also make your own nectar using white granulated sugar and water. And the recipe is 1 part sugar to 4 parts water. You boil the water, add the sugar, and you are good to go. You don't need to add any kind of coloring to it. It's not known if food coloring can harm the birds in any way. They don't need it, so you are good to go. Just having clear nectar is all good for them. We are also, with our live streams that we do here every Tuesday and Saturday, we are going to be focusing on Orioles and hummingbirds on Tuesday on our live stream at 10 o'clock. So if you want to learn more about Orioles and hummingbirds, their biology, their nesting habits, all that good stuff, we'll be talking about that Tuesday at 10 a.m. right where you are now, either on YouTube or on Facebook. And if you can't make it live, we always have the videos up after the fact so you can watch them at your convenience. But instead of talking about what is about to arrive, we can talk about what is here. It is mason bee time. On Monday, I was in the yard kind of cleaning up the backyard finally, and I saw some mason bees buzzing around my mason bee house. And so they are starting to emerge. And now is the time to keep an eye on your mason bee houses. They're going to be chewing through those little mud caps that have been capped off on those houses and emerging, pollinating the garden, and starting the whole process all over again. So if you have a house that's totally full, you might want to consider adding an additional house, which is what I'm doing. I've got one right here that I'm bringing home with me today to add to my garden. And yeah, they should be buzzing around even more as the weather warms up and stays a little bit warmer, which it looks like it's going to be, thankfully. And so you'll start to see more of them buzzing around the garden. It's definitely mason bee time. It's not too late to put out a house, but I will put one out soon just so you make sure that you capture them in the season. They will be out for several weeks, so you still do have some time, but the earlier the better. They'll find the house and they'll start that whole egg laying and capping it off with mud in the houses. It's really fun to watch. So now is absolutely the time to put out your mason bee houses. People are reporting bluebirds starting to build their nests and lay their eggs. We had a customer who a couple weeks ago, maybe now, or maybe about a week and a half ago, said in his house he had a few bluebird eggs. This is a picture from last year that Bob sent in, where in his bluebird box on April 19th, which is exactly 1 year ago today, the bluebirds had started egg laying. So the bluebirds are definitely starting their nesting, and they are one of our earliest nesting songbirds. So you don't have to feel like you missed the whole nesting season or anything. If you haven't put out any birdhouses, you still have time. 1 year, when I first started attracting bluebirds, I didn't get my houses out until Memorial Day weekend, and then I was able to still get some. So because they nest and will have several broods throughout the spring and summer months, they nest for several maybe 3-4 months. You still definitely have time to put out a box, but if you're trying to attract bluebirds, I would put one out sooner rather than later, because they are working on that first brood, and they have up to 3 broods a year, the bluebirds do. So you have time, but I would get your nesting boxes up now. Especially, we've got reports of Carolina wrens checking out nest boxes, chickadees checking out nest boxes. So if you want to attract some birds to nest in houses or nesting platforms, now's the time. We have a whole bunch of houses. We're getting more in. Actually, we just got some more delivered. So we've got a ton of them here at the store that you can pick from. Everything from little wren houses to big screech owl and wood duck houses. Some birds to be on the lookout for in your yard right now, and I heard one of these yesterday while out on a hike, are going to be things like eastern towhee. Eastern towhee, every once in a while we hear about one being here in the winter, but really they are a bird that we're more likely to see in the spring and summer, and there are eastern towhees in the area right now. They are in the sparrow family. They do come to feeders here and there. You're more likely to see them underneath the feeder, kind of cleaning up some of the seeds, but they are in backyards and they are calling. This is a picture from Mark from probably I think this is from last year also. And here's a picture of the towhee singing its little heart out. Their call sounds like drink your tea, and they are definitely singing. I heard one yesterday, and they're back in the area. So look for these in the backyard. The males are black like this with rufous on the side of their body. The females aren't as dark in color. They're more of a brown color. So you can definitely tell the difference between male and female with the eastern towhee. Another bird that is migratory to definitely be on the lookout for, especially around the same time the Orioles come in. So next week, especially, start looking for the rose-breasted grosbeaks. This is a picture of the male and the female. The male's on the left. They will come to the same kind of feeders as cardinals do. They're in the cardinal family. And so if you've got something out that has a nice amount of perching room, either a platform feeder or a hopper feeder, something with sunflower seed or safflower, that is what the rose-breasted grosbeaks really like. So definitely be on the lookout for them. They are migratory. They'll be coming into the area and they're going to be hungry. So definitely make sure you have some food set out for them. And here's another picture of the male. They're a pretty large bird as well. So if you have one at your feeder, they are quite striking. Redwing blackbirds. People are getting lots of redwing blackbirds at their feeders. They're kind of setting up their spots to nest. So if you're by any kind of water, don't be surprised if you've got redwing blackbirds that are starting the nest building process. They can be quite territorial, but both the male and the female are definitely back. For a while, we were seeing lots of males. Now this is the female on the right. She looks quite a bit different than the male, but there's definitely both male and female that are back in the area, and they will nest in cattails. They'll weave a nest in between the little cattails and just be in marshes, along ponds. Any places like that are great for redwing blackbird, and they are definitely back in the area. If you are having issues, though, with blackbirds raiding your bird feeders, or even especially grackles, we get a lot of questions about how to kind of discourage grackles from feeders, or even the starlings, which some people are getting still in their backyards because they are here all year round. Definitely try the safflower seed. Blackbirds don't like it. Things like that rose-breasted grosbeak that I just showed you really, really love it. Cardinals love it. So you can still get some pretty good birds with the safflower seed, but not a huge flock of blackbirds. So if that's an issue, you can switch to the safflower seed. And then here's some other birds to be on the lookout for that are coming into the area that you might just happen upon underneath your feeders. Things like brown thrasher and gray catbird. You're probably familiar with mockingbirds, and these are the other two mimicking species that are in that group that we have in the area. So brown thrasher is quite a large bird. They've got a really long tail. They're a light brown color, and they are they're a mimic that will tend to repeat a song twice in a row. The mockingbird will repeat a song 3 or more times in a row when it's doing its call. Brown thrashers tend to mimic the call twice before moving on to another call. And then there's also gray catbird, which are a mimic, and they tend to give the call of the bird they're mimicking once and then move on. So they also have a little call at the end of their repertoire that sounds like a cat meow. So gray catbird are definitely coming back into the area, as well as brown thrasher. Brown thrasher you're most likely to see underneath your feeders or in a tree or shrub, or they will sometimes kind of flick around leaves like a northern flicker will to look for insects. So look for them more on the ground. But gray catbirds you might see in trees, or if you have any kind of vines that are producing berries, they love those. And they'll also come to Oriole feeders. So if you have grape jelly out for the Orioles, You might just get yourself some gray catbirds too. Don't be surprised if you do. I definitely do every year, which is really fun. And in the winter months, we have American tree sparrow, which look kind of similar to this bird, the chipping sparrow. Now those American tree sparrows are migrating out of the area. They're going further north, and things like the chipping sparrow are coming back into the area. Chipping sparrow are quite small. They're smaller than your typical house sparrow. They have that chestnut cap on the top of their head, and they have a black stripe that goes through their eye. And people are getting chipping sparrows now in their backyards, so be on the lookout for them as well. And then there's some smaller birds migrating through. You might see these hopping around in trees or shrubs, things like blue-gray gnatcatcher. I love this bird. It looks so cute. It looks like he's really mad all the time with an angry eyebrow. Ruby-crowned kinglet. There were a lot of ruby-crowned kinglet caught yesterday, apparently, over at Braddock Bay Bird Observatory at the banding station. They had a lot of ruby-crowned kinglets and brown creepers yesterday, is what I heard. So they are coming in some big numbers, it sounds like. And yesterday while I was out, I didn't see any, but my Merlin app was picking up some of their sounds. So they are coming back into the area. And then don't be surprised if you start to see some warblers too, some early spring warblers. This is a picture that Mark sent in from the winter. He had a pine warbler at his feeders in the winter months, but they are one of the earlier migrating warblers that'll come through. So don't be surprised if you happen to get one at your feeders. They do come to feeders here and there, especially during migration when they're really hungry. Mark was having one come to his suet feeder, which you can see here, but they'll also eat things like sunflower hearts. So don't be surprised if you see these little guys, as well as yellow-rumped warbler. This is an early spring warbler that we get. Every once in a while, one's reported in the winter, which is pretty wild. And there was one year where people were reporting lots of black-throated blue warblers coming to their oriole feeders. They were migrating in, and then it got really cold. And because of that, they probably weren't finding many insects. And so many people were getting them coming to their bird feeders that year. So you never know what you might get at your feeders this time of the year. So it's a really, really exciting time. So thank you guys for watching. Like I said, we'll be talking more about orioles and hummingbirds on Tuesday, and we'll do another migration update to see what new things people are reporting, what the migration outlook looks like. So it's a really exciting time of the year. So get your oriole feeders ready, hummingbird feeders ready, make sure they're clean. If you haven't cleaned out your nest boxes from the year before, I would definitely do that now. It's not too late to put out nesting boxes. I just bought a couple new ones this week and I've been putting them out. So we've got lots and lots and lots to choose from. If you are looking for new nest boxes or new feeders, we have a whole bunch of hummingbird feeders, oriole feeders. They're coming in so fast we can't get the website updated fast enough. So the website our website, which is thebirdhouseny.com, will show you some of the things that we have, but we also have way, way more in the store. And some of them are kind of unique, one-of-a-kind type things too. So looks like Steel Monkey is on. It says, Liz, have they ever tagged orioles to see if the same ones return to where they were born? That would be something if the ones I fed last year came back. I'm not sure. It wouldn't surprise me if there's been a study about this. I have heard that the orioles, if they have success nesting in one area, they tend to come back to that area. It might not be the same exact tree, but it could be a tree that's right next door or really, really close. So that's pretty common with birds. If they have success in one spot with raising young successfully, they tend to come back to that area. So sometimes young tend to disperse a little bit more as far as birds go, but I'm not sure about orioles specifically if those young birds come back to the same spot they were born, but would be an interesting thing to look up here. Let's see. Steel Monkey also says, I like throwing peanuts out for the blue jays, but now I have wild turkeys showing up. They also like peanuts. It's getting a little crowded around here. Yeah, it sounds like it. And that's a big bird. They can eat a lot of stuff. So if you've got a bunch of turkeys around, they can probably make quick work of those peanuts. That's funny. Ed is on and says, when is a good time to change the tubes in my mason bee house? The current tubes are pretty full, So I want those guys to hatch out, but I'd like to replace the existing tubes before they start to repopulate the old tubes. That's a really good question. So if you can take those tubes out of the house, if you've got one of those houses that you can easily remove the tubes, I would remove the tubes. And what I do sometimes is I'll take the tubes out and put them in a different location in the yard and then put new tubes in my existing house. So I try to keep an eye on them all hatching. And then once they've hatched all of that, the old tubes in the new location that I've moved them to, I get rid of those, and then they can go back to the original house. It can be hard to kind of keep an eye on what's hatching, and then when the new bees are coming and trying to lay eggs. So another thing I've done too is taken the tubes, or even the full, if it's a house so you can't remove the tubes, take the whole house and put it in one of those butterfly habitats, like an insect house. And that way they can come out of the house, but they're in that net. And then I kind of open up the butterfly, the netted habitat, let them out, close it again. So I know I'm just getting the insects emerging and new ones can't try to come in and repopulate the old house that I'm getting rid of. So maybe that's helpful for you. But yeah, what I did this year is I took all the tubes out of one of my houses and I put it on the other side of the garden and then replaced all those. So now my house where they all were has brand new tubes, and then the old tubes are in a different spot in the garden waiting for them to hatch out. So there's different ways you can go about it. But that's what I've done. And then I find it to be really helpful if you can put it in one of those pop-up habitats, just to make sure you're not getting bees that are trying to lay eggs in those old tubes. That can be really helpful. Steel Monkey says, I hope we have a better showing of hummingbirds this year. Last year was terrible. I only had one. Yeah, over the past several years, people haven't had very good luck with hummingbirds. Some people get a lot. Some people have been getting very few. Lots of people have been getting Orioles, though, so don't let that discourage you from trying to attract some of these migratory birds. It does kind of ebb and flow. And keep in mind, too, that especially early in the season when they're migrating in, they're really, really hungry. So I would definitely still try to put out your feeders in the early spring. It seems like people get a lot in the early spring and then again in the fall. So during the summer months when there's a lot of natural food and flowers and nectar out there, the hummingbirds might be going to those instead of feeders. But I wouldn't let it discourage you, because we might also have a good year for them this year, fingers crossed. So definitely keep us posted if you guys of what you guys are getting and how much. We love to know. And like I said, we'll be back on Tuesday with another broadcast talking about Orioles and hummingbirds. So thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back on Tuesday, and you guys have a great weekend. Bye-bye.